BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello and welcome to the Scottish Football Podcast, a quick and easy guide to everything that's going on in our beautiful game. It's Tuesday, the 14th of May. I'm Phil Goodlad, and after a weekend of drama, well, there's more to come.
Robinson! Running clear and the double! What a start to the second half!
We'll come out on top as Partick Thistle and Raith Rovers go head-to-head in the Premiership playoff semi-final. Also,
it's about the 3 games now to be really good, to hopefully get players also back. But everybody's giving their best and they're showing the good mentality.
Can Rangers bounce back from their old firm disappointment as Dundee come calling? And
you go and clap the fans and they can show their frustration. That's normal, but go and clap them because they've come and supported today and you've let them down. So again, we let them down today and it was a difficult result.
Can the Leaguer Montgomery survive at Easter Road?
This is the Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sport Scotland.
Great to have you along this fine day. I'm joined by Kevin Thomson, the former Hibs, Rangers, Dundee and Scotland midfielder, and Ryan Stevenson, who my producer has written here. Ryan played for many teams in his time, including Partick Thistle and, in brackets, briefly, Raith Rovers.
That's true.
What a build-up.
I know. And played in goals for Raith Rovers as well.
Did you really?
I did, yes.
My producer is not that great. He doesn't have that in brackets next to your name. Kevin, morning to you. How's things?
All good, Phil. Thanks. All good, yeah.
As a former Hibs, Rangers and Dundee midfielder, you have plenty on your mind at the moment.
There's lots going on. I think I get, my opinion seems to be asked quite a lot recently because of obviously how many big games have been quite important for the clubs that obviously I've played. So it's nice. It's hard for me and Ryan when you retire and the climax of the season, whether you're involved in the bottom part or you're involved in the top part, it's always quite exciting and it's probably the bits that you miss. It's definitely not down the bottom, but especially when the games come thick and fast for the top of the league. Listen,
there's loads to get through with Kevin and Ryan. First though, let's quickly whiz through the latest Scottish football news. Rangers will be without 11 first-team players as they take on Dundee at Ibrox tonight. Raith Rovers boss Ian Murray insists their title disappointment is out their system as they go into the Premiership playoff semi-final first leg at Partick Thistle this evening. Bologna have been linked with a move for the Aberdeen midfielder Connor Barron. He's out of contract this summer. Meanwhile, the former Aberdeen midfielder Darren Young, he's left his post as Stirling Albion manager. It follows their relegation from League One. They were beaten by Dumbarton in the playoff semi-finals. And Dundee United's Player of the Year, Craig Sibbald, has signed a new deal with the club. This as United prepare for life back in the big time next season. Let's start then with the Premiership playoff first leg. It's live on Sports Scene tonight on the BBC Scotland channel from 7:30. Ryan, as far as a semi-final is concerned, Partick Thistle tuned up nicely against Airdrie last week. Raith Rovers almost lying in wait for Thistle. This has all the hallmarks of a really good game.
Yeah, it does. I think they're two good teams. I've seen both of them this season. I think Raith Rovers know only one way to play, and that's total football. They look to attack. Partick have a bit more about them. I think they can sort of change it up. They can play football, but they can also be quite direct at times. So yeah, it's got everything there to be a good game. We're probably jinxing it here, and it'll end up in 0-0 or something. But it's got everything there to be a good game. And hopefully, I think all the games so far have been really, really good. So hopefully we can just keep that trend going. And as we said, I think with social media and the way things are going, it's been a great advert for Scottish football.
Yeah. Do you think that Partick's ability, as you see it, to be able to change things up and to play different styles and be maybe slightly more pragmatic at times, that gives them an edge in the cutthroat world of playoffs and semi-finals?
Well, last year they had it all but sealed and done, didn't they? And then 15 minutes of madness.
20 minutes in Dingwall's a long time.
I think in the playoffs you just never really know. I think at times in the playoffs everything sort of goes out the windows, all form, all manners of play. It can just really be who turns up in the night, who holds their nerves, and the 11 players or the 16 players who turn up and put on the best performance. So as I said, it's two good teams. Two good young managers as well that are going against each other, so it's got everything made there to be a really good tie.
Kevin, does Partick Thistle have an edge over Raith Rovers because they've actually been playing over the last couple of weeks?
It's a difficult one, Phil. I always think momentum's a good thing, and then people would think that you have to play the extra 2 games, the rest is more important, but I think I can echo what Ryan said. I think form goes out the window and there's no real theory to help you, really. I think there's 2 good teams, 2 good managers, and it's almost a flip of the coin. I've not watched loads of the Championship. I obviously get the games on the Friday night, but for what I have seen, kind of what Ryan said, Rafe pass the ball around. They've got a good way of playing, and it's not that Partick Thistle haven't. I watched Partick Thistle play actually against Dunfermline. I thought they were brilliant, and then all of a sudden they just fell to bits a couple of months back, and Dunfermline were on the kind of front foot. So I think these games are like that in the Championship. I think you can have total control and you can be in the ascendancy, and all of a sudden a mistake, a goal, it changes games. So Brian Graham's obviously a big talking point. Everybody talks about Brian Graham in your team. If you've got him, you've got half a chance of getting promoted or half a chance of being up the top of the league. And it's not that Rafe have not got that. So it'll be interesting to see if Brian Graham has any say in the final outcome.
This is the Scottish Football Podcast.
First leg of the semi-final then, Partick Thistle Raith Rovers tonight at Firhill, across the fair city of Glasgow at Ibrox. A very different kettle of fish. Rangers hosting Dundee. Kevin, how motivated? In fact, no, I won't say that because that would suggest that Rangers players won't be motivated. Probably the question to ask is how demotivated, how flat will the Rangers players be going into this one tonight, given what happened at Parkhead at the weekend?
It'll be difficult. Fully expect Ibrox to be quite flat as well. The fans will turn up and no doubt they'll voice their opinion and how the team's probably flattered to deceive is the best way to describe it, Phil. They've, to bring themselves back into a position that was in their hands only a few weeks ago to have the week up in Dingwall, and then obviously against Dundee was, I think, a harder one to stomach for the fans. I think if they'd just always been 7 or 8 points behind and it always looked like the curtains had shut for them, I think it would have felt different. I think because they managed to claw themselves back in, and then, as I say, that week, because I think it's hurt to the core that wee bit more. Listen, I played for the club, the whole DNA, the place is winning, and sometimes you think back to not particularly doing well as an individual, but the team's winning. It's amazing how much that can carry.
Can I just ask you about that whole line about the DNA of the club? Because I know that this annoys a lot of supporters of non-Rangers Celtic teams. When you speak about the DNA of the club, can you form how much expectation or even how much pressure is on a Rangers player, a Celtic player, when, as you say, the whole ethos of being at the club is to win?
Just the way it is. See, when we played against Barcelona in the Champions League, Phil, one of the best players in the world at that current time, we were expected to win. See, when you played pre-season friendlies against, regardless, bounce games, you're expected to win. It's just the way it is. It would be great if it was that wee bit easier. It would be great if everybody could do it, but it's probably that weight of expectation. And listen, people that don't like Rangers might disagree that that's the way it should be, but it's a club steeped in history, winning trophies, and that is the one thing that when you walk through that door, it's demanded of you, really. So, and some people can flourish under that pressure, and some people find that shirt a heavy one to carry. And by the way, some top players find that difficult. It's just a totally different mentality. Listen, there's far better players in world football than the players that currently play for Rangers, but to represent that club, I cannot tell you how difficult it is. And you either stick your chest out and you embrace it, and you're an individual that can handle that, or you're one that suffers. And probably recently Rangers have had too many that have suffered.
Ryan, Philippe Clement saying that he'll be without 11 players tonight. When you are without a starting 11, as it were, albeit he is Jack Butland, how difficult is that for a team to actually take to the park and know your role within that team structure?
Yeah, they should. I just see that as an excuse for Rangers. I think if you play for Rangers, whether you're a regular or you're on the fringes, you're in the building every day, you should understand what the manager's style of play is. You should be taking on board the information that's given to the team, because they'll be involved in every meeting. I echo what Kevin says. I think a lot of the Rangers players, when it came to the nitty-gritty part of the season, have folded. I think it was obvious to see at Dingwall. It was more evident at Dundee. I think the Dundee performance was the final nail in the coffin. And I think the biggest thing that Rangers miss is a group, a core of Scottish boys. I genuinely do. I think that when I was playing and Kevin was playing, Rangers and Celtic always had a group of Scottish boys who understood the club, exactly what Kevin's saying, understood the DNA, understood what it took to win, understood the fans. And I think Rangers don't have that just now. I think Celtic have it a little bit. Callum McGregor's in there who typifies everything about Celtic, and I think that's what Rangers need. I think obviously the likes of Ryan Jack and that being injured predominantly during the season has been a big loss, but these Scottish boys just understand what it takes, as Kevin says, to wear that shirt, to understand the responsibility. But I think going on tonight, every player that comes in has got something to play for. If you've not been playing, you want to come in and you want to show the fans, you want to show the manager, you want to prove to yourself that you should be playing for Rangers and you want to be there next year. I mean, the club is absolutely massive across the world, and a lot of these players will only realise once they leave just what opportunity they had. And if they haven't grasped it and they don't take it, I'm telling you right now, it'll be something they would ultimately regret later on in life.
Ryan, just to pick you up on you saying about the core of a Scottish group required, if though, as you say, Rangers are a club that's known throughout the world, the players that they're bringing in will know how big the club is, will know that they need to win, will know about the fan base.
I think they do. But again, it's very easy for these players to jump on a plane and leave. If you're a Scottish boy, Kevin's an Edinburgh boy, but anytime he's going about anywhere in Scotland, any Rangers fan will know who Kevin Thomson is. Kurt Broadfoot was the same. He's from my little village that I grew up in. There's no getting away from it. Even now, years after playing for the club, there's still no getting away from it. So if you're a Scottish boy, you understand. You've grown up knowing Rangers and Celtic. You understand the DNA of the club, as Kevin said. And I think when you've got 3, 4, 5 players playing in that team week in, week out, added with good players from across the seas in Europe and across the world, it helps them as well. Because going to Dundee on a Tuesday night when you need to get points, I think when you've got too many foreign boys, I just think it doesn't work. And I think over the years you've seen that in the history of the clubs. They've always had a core to be successful. They've always had a core of Scottish boys there. And I genuinely think that's what Rangers have missed.
Kevin, just quickly, I can hear thousands of people listening to this going, Phil, there are 2 teams playing at Ibrox tonight. Can we please mention Dundee? Dundee, it would almost round off Dundee's brilliant first season back in the top flight by getting something tonight at Ibrox.
Yeah, they've been terrific. And I know they've obviously had a lot of negativity regarding the pitch, but I have to say, Tony Dock, when you think of Derek McInnes flying high, and Doc was obviously his lieutenant for so long and had such a successful partnership to then branch out himself, it shows that they both know what they're doing. It's a great club, great fan base, and obviously when the arch rival is obviously in the Championship, they get the kind of gloating rights as such. But listen, I think it'll be difficult for Dundee, Phil, there's no doubt about that. But brilliant achievement back in the league. We obviously done it as well, the same type of scenario when Paul Hartley's team got promoted for the Championship. First year back, we got top 6. So brilliant achievement, and hopefully they can build on that.
Finally, the pressure mounting at Easter Road on the Hibs manager, Nick Montgomery. Kevin, you've got some skin in the game in this as a former Hibs player, so I'll come to you in just a moment. Ryan, first up, and I would never suggest that a manager should lose his job, but I'll simply pose the question, is Hibs under Nick Montgomery a combination you can see next season?
Probably you're asking the wrong guy here. I'm quite happy seeing Hibs getting battered every week.
Thank you for your honesty, caller.
I think, listen, I think when the results have been the way they are, there's no doubt that Hibernian should not be in the bottom 6 of the Premiership. And I think that when the results have been the way they are, I think the performances, when they've been the way they are, it'd be very difficult. The can lies at the manager's door. And I've obviously read lots, seen lots of the fans sort of coming back, and I think that they're desperate for a change, and I think the board will feel that sort of pressure. So I'd be very surprised if he was there next year. There's your headlines for tomorrow, everybody on the back pages. Hearts man calls for Hibs boss to be fired. But keep him. I'm happy for them to keep him. Kevin, it's no laughing matter if you're a Hibs supporter. As a former Hibs player, and the club is close to your heart, Hibs can't go on sacking managers, can they?
Nah, they probably can't, Phil, but it's hard because can you echo what Ryan said? They should be a top 6, but they've underachieved, and it's okay saying that you should be a top six, but you need to do it over the course of the season, and they've not done it, unfortunately.
But if the club did their due diligence on Nick Montgomery and they thought 6 months ago he is the man to take us forward, they can't then bin him after 6 months, after just one transfer window, can they?
No, I agree, but it's the way football is, Phil, unfortunately. It's a results-driven business, and the bigger the club you're at, the more scrutiny you're under. You talk about DNA through Ibrox. There's a DNA at Easter Road. There's pressure. Me and Ryan both lived it, Hibs and Hearts. So, listen, Hibs and Hearts fans are hard to please as well. There's a huge expectation. The clubs are growing all the time. The city's growing all the time. So the fan bases are getting bigger. And there's a huge expectation. And when you see Nazy and obviously the Jambos doing really well, it just adds fuel to the fire, really, when the Hibs are struggling. So I think it's been a really difficult season. I think Nick's looked a wee bit jaded come the end of the season on his interviews. I think it's talking about media scrutiny and obviously being there for everybody to see. He's having to continue to do post-match, pre-match stuff. And I'm one of the type of people, I don't know if Ryan's the same, I like to listen to managers, whether they're going well or not going well, because it's obviously we're kind of involved in that, and it's maybe a path that we want to take one day. So I'm always quite intrigued to see how the managers present themselves off the back of good results, bad results, getting a bit of pressure, etc., to try and gain experience myself, really. And I feel as though he's wavered a wee bit, Phil, recently, which is difficult to see, because you're desperate to see him do well. And I think the pressure's getting to him. I think 4-0 on Sunday against Aberdeen was a real low point for them. So I'm actually doing the BBC Open All Mics tomorrow night. So I've got a feeling that it might be quite a toxic atmosphere. And as soon as it does turn toxic, if the result don't go their way, and Motherwell obviously had a brilliant result up in Dingwall, so you couldn't ask for two contrasts to get beat 4-0 and your opposition winning 5-1. I think it could be a difficult night for him.
When you mentioned that he's wavered in post-match interviews and press conferences, would you like to see Nick Montgomery almost shed his composure and just let rip and just rid himself of all the frustration and go, right, let's call a few people out. Here's what we need for next season. And almost just, there seems to be a lack of a connection between Nick Montgomery when he speaks after matches and what the fans have watched.
Yeah, I think that's the hardest thing, Phil. You're scrutinised all the time. The same as like me and Ryan now. Everybody's looking to see what you say, how you say it. You say the one wrong word, people are on your back. Listen, social media is a huge part of society now. So people that are not even at the game will flick on, and the first comment off the back of Hibs getting beat will be negative. If there's 500 comments off the back of the game on Sunday, the likelihood is 95% of them will be negative. So it's hard to change the narrative when you're a manager. The harsh reality is some of the players are probably massively underachieved this year. There's no doubt the loan players that come in January heightened the quality within the squad, but I'm not so sure the dynamics of the squad. And that really touches on your point, Phil. Does he get the summer to try and change his ways and bring in the players? He was obviously really rigid in playing 4-4-2 for a period of time. He's been a wee bit more flexible. You could argue he's been flexible because he's realised that the players can't do what he wants to do, or as the pressure got to him and he's wavered away from what he believes in. Listen, I can't answer that question because I'm only looking for afar. But I think when you're one thing and you're this, and all of a sudden the pressure comes and you start to change, I think you could argue that you're maybe getting away from what you believe in. So it'll be interesting to see how the next couple of games go. As I say, I think Ibrox will be quite similar to Easter Road tomorrow night. I think, well, tonight obviously for Ibrox, tomorrow night for Easter Road. I think they'll both be difficult places for the players because the expectation is that great, and I think both sets of players have underachieved, unfortunately.
Gentlemen, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much indeed for joining us today. Ryan Stevenson and Kevin Thomson with your daily dose of the Scottish Football Podcast. Listen, really busy night ahead of us, not least on the BBC Scotland channel. Partick Thistle against Raith Rovers. It's the first leg of the Premiership playoff semi-final. 7:30 across on the channel. Also Sportsun will keep you right up to date with everything that's happening. Rangers against Dundee. That's on good old Radio Scotland from 7 o'clock. And remember, every day we're here with a new episode of the Scottish Football Podcast, bringing you all the news, the views and the analysis from our beautiful game. From now though, I'm Phil Goodlad. Enjoy your day and we'll speak again soon.
Just a quick reminder, the Behind the Goals podcast is available every Tuesday with me, Rachel Corsey, and me, Leanne Crichton. It's your one-stop shop for our take on everything that's happening in the world of football. Just head to BBC Sounds or wherever you get your podcasts and search for Behind the Goals.
Before you listen to this BBC podcast, I'd like to introduce myself. My name's Stevie Middleton and I'm a BBC Commissioner for a load of sport podcasts. I'm lucky to do that at the BBC because I get to work with leading journalists, experienced pundits, and the biggest sports stars. Together, we bring you untold stories and fascinating insights straight from the players' mouths. But the best thing about doing this at the BBC is our unique access to the sporting world. What that means is that we can bring you podcasts that create a real connection to dedicated sports fans across the UK. So if you like this podcast, head over to BBC Sounds where you'll find plenty more.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello and welcome to an emergency bonus edition of the Scottish Football Podcast. I'm Phil Goodlad. It's Tuesday the 14th of May and as we record, well, it's been confirmed that Nick Montgomery has been sacked by Hibs. It comes following their failure to make the top six and after that Aberdeen annihilation at home on Sunday.
Hoylett gives it to Clarkson, who steps over it. Bojan Miovski, it's 3-0 Aberdeen. Sokler on the edge of the box, edge of the 6-yard box, into the middle, and it's Fletcher Boyd who scoops it high into the roof of the net.
You go and clap the fans and they can show their frustration. That's normal, but go and clap them because they've come out to support you today and you've let them down. So again, we let them down today and it was a difficult result.
This is the Scottish Football Podcast.
So what next at Easter Road, or should that be who next at Easter Road? Tom English is, of course, our chief sports writer, and Matty Fairnie is the Hibs fan and host of the Longbangers podcast. Matty, you were caught as much as a surprise as the rest of us. Maybe not that the news was coming, but that it actually came this morning.
Yeah, normally we get wind of these things sort of a wee bit in advance, but it was literally 10 minutes before the jungle drums started beating, and then 9:15 the statement came out from Hibs and it was confirmed that he was away. And I think the timing of it caught quite a few people by surprise. The right decision in your view? Yeah, definitely. It's never nice to see somebody lose their job, but I think Hibs have just been on a massive downward slide this season. We went down to 9th place on Sunday. Performances are getting worse week to week rather than better. There was just nothing really to hang your hat on that anything was going to improve. So I think the decision was pretty inevitable in the end. Tom English, listen to this for a list. Neil Lennon, Paul Heckingbottom, Jack Ross, Sean Maloney, Lee Johnson and Nick Montgomery. All since January 2019. Managers at Hibs having left the club. Your reaction?
Well, it's not surprising that Nick Montgomery is gone. And, Hibs are in this spiral of... And the chat has always been, Hibs can't keep firing managers. And of course they can't. That's not good for business, not good for stability. But if they keep hiring managers who are eminently fireable, then what are they supposed to do? They're in a catch-22 here, entirely of their own making. So this is the fourth manager in 2.5 years that Ben Kensel has fired. At what point does the focus switch to the people making the decisions at the top? Does anything happen to Ben Kensel? Director of football, Brian McDermott. What is it all about the manager? No, it's not. Of course it's not. Nick Montgomery didn't deserve to keep his job. But there has to be a focus here and a serious spotlight shone on the way this club is run. And I suspect there will be now. Bill Foley and the Black Knight Consortium are in. Clearly, they didn't trust Montgomery with their money. Did they trust Ben Kensel with their money?
When Nick Montgomery was brought in to Easter Road, Matty, back in September last year, just 8 months ago, he was seen as the ideal candidate, the candidate that the board trusted. Why then, 8 months on, is he seen as the candidate not to be trusted, the manager that had to be sacked? It's a good question. I was all for his appointment, and I'll be honest and say I hadn't heard of him until the recruitment process started last time and the candidates started emerging. Then I did a bit of research into him, and to be honest, he looked like an exciting up-and-coming manager. He had performed wonders with a team with a low budget in Australia. Hibs headhunted him. We went out and he was our pick rather than him applying for the job. But it just hasn't worked out. Whatever he did with Central Coast Mariners hasn't transferred across to Easter Road. He's not got a performance out of the players. Even like he was talking about having the best transfer window ever in January, and it looked
you know, at the end of the transfer window, it looked like that was going to potentially get us fourth place. But we just went on this steady decline. Again, the longer he's had the players, the worse we've got. And I think he just sort of ran out of time, ran out of road. And I think the support definitely had run out of patience with him. And I think the board kind of... If you'd seen the stadium at 65 minutes on Sunday, it was empty. There was only Aberdeen fans left. Like, there was a handful of us waiting till full time. And the folk who remained pretty much just stayed to boo. And I think that sort of made the board's mind up.
It's been look, you look at it, Matty, and the Hibs fans have been saying the same things over not just this season but a number of seasons. Defence, defence, defence. Like, when is the penny going to drop here? You look over the last 2 seasons, in the last 2 league seasons, average goals for per game in Hibs in the league 0.7, average goals against 1.6. You know. And they have this incredible habit this season in particular, of conceding these late goals, ruinous goals. I mean, there's 10 examples of this. If you bear with me 1 second. In August, 2-2 against St Mirren in the 89th minute. They lose 3-2. 2-0 in September, 2-0 against Kilmarnock. 2-0 ahead against Kilmarnock in the 60th minute, they draw 2-2. Month after that, 2-0 ahead against Ross County in the 73rd minute, they draw 2-2. Month after that, 2-1 ahead against St Mirren in the 90th minute, they draw 2-2. December, 0-0 against Hearts in the 90th minute, they lose 1-0. February, 1-1 against Celtic in the 90th minute, they lose 2-1. March, 2-1 ahead against Ross County in the 90th minute, they draw 2-2. In April, 1-1 against St Johnstone in the 81st minute, they lose 2-1. April, 1-1 against Motherwell in the 90th minute, they draw 1-1. And in this month, 1-1 against Ross County in the 88th minute, they lose 2-1.
Tom, do you think that's psychological an issue, or is it that they're not fit enough?
I don't know. Well, certainly psychological. They're not mentally tough enough to see games out. I mean, even half of those games they held out to get either 1 point or 3 points, their league position would look markedly different now. So there's clearly a major issue here in terms of psychology. I don't know if it's fitness. I don't know if it's ability. I'm not sure what it is. Matty might have a bigger take on that, but it's not just this stuff hasn't dropped out of the sky. This stuff has been going on quite a while now.
It's been a problem. Montgomery was talking after the game on Sunday. It's not just the late goals, Tom, but also the propensity to concede from our opponent's first chance, which happened over and over. In fact, when on the last day of the split, the goal that Motherwell scored right at the end was also their first shot on target. And he said in his post-match that he couldn't do anything about this on the training pitch. And you think, surely that's your job. Like that, if it's happening over and over again, you've got an issue that you need to find a way to get on the training pitch and drill it out of the team. Whether it's psychological, whether it's tactical, whether it's fitness, whatever it is, you need to work out what the problem is and then fix it. And he just never got to the bottom of it. And ultimately, that's kind of cost him his job.
Tom, you had that long list of late goals. Another one was in the semi-final of the League Cup just before Christmas when Hibs really bombarded Aberdeen, quite how Aberdeen were still in the game in the last 15 minutes, and Majawski ball went over the top and he wins and he scores. And you look back at that and you think, what a difference it may have been if Hibs had held on and made the final, and who knows, against an underperforming Rangers side, what could have happened, because that was him only 3 months in the door.
Yeah, coulda, woulda, shoulda, they didn't. And that's the reality of it. And they've blown a lot of these opportunities all throughout the season. It's like this is the fourth manager in 2.5 years. I don't know, Matty, where we are over the last 10, 15, 20 years. I mean, the numbers are astronomical. It's a footballing abattoir in Easter Road, It's quite shocking. And, there's a lot of signposts in terms of Montgomery, and it's not all about Montgomery. Montgomery's gone now, right? So the focus should very much be at the upper echelons of this club. But when you hear Montgomery pre-match on Sunday going, well, we're third in the table for XG, at that point you think it's curtains. It's over. It's done. Next. And I don't know who's going to be next. But wow,
We'll get to that in just a moment. I'm just looking at the list of managers, Tom, that you're speaking about. So let me just take you back to actually this time in 2014, 10 years ago, Terry Butcher. Since then, Alan Stubbs, Neil Lennon, Paul Heckenbottom, Jack Ross, Sean Maloney, Lee Johnson and Nick Montgomery. The thing, Matty, that I get from that list is that there were established names, Stubbs, Lennon, Jack Ross as a manager who there was so much sort of promise as an up-and-coming manager who was ready to cement his promise in the game. They've then gone down the Sean Maloney role of an up-and-coming, untried manager, albeit with vast experience internationally with Roberto Martinez. And then you have Lee Johnson and Nick Montgomery. It would be unfair to describe them as jobbing managers, but they were managers from different leagues that seemed to do a reasonable job at where they were at and had been given the tools to do something good at Easter Road. All those managers in 10 years have offered different things. They've all failed.
Yeah, I think you would ask questions about recruitment. The recruitment at the club has not been good for a number of years. I think we had this policy of trying to find hidden gems, emerging talent, players like Elias Melkerson or Ewan Henderson, that we could bring into the club, develop and then sell on for a profit. But that just didn't work. But we bought a lot of players. So at the moment, I think the squad size is sort of mid-40s, touching on 50 players. We've got 19 players out on loan. And it just speaks to the sort of the best that we've had with recruitment. And that's not helped the managers. We've not had the stability at the club. I don't think there's been like a sort of clear direction of travel that's been set for the top of the club either on how to fix it. So it just feels like one massive sort of shambles at the moment.
19 players on loan. I mean, is that not an indictment of this kind of accumulation of players and the team? It's been propped up by loan players. You look at your Fish, you got Marcondes, you got Melita. Well, Mayenda isn't getting a look in, but there's so many players knocking around the first team. It's kind of, and I use the word advisedly, right? But when the kind of pattern of failure goes over a number of seasons, and the signings are so poor and short-termism and all the rest of it, it's kind of like dysfunctional, Matty.
Yeah, dysfunctional is a good word for it. And I think it's borne out in our results, though. Like you see, like and I hate to speak positively about Hearts, but they got their act together and sort of sailed it to third. There was a point in the season where we were ahead of them, and we've just sort of collapsed since then. But it just seems to be that nobody really knows what they're doing. Even if you look at the director of football, so Brian McDermott came in a year ago, last May. Now, for me, a director of football goes and looks at all aspects of the football side of the club, from your development team to your first team, to recruitment, to data analysis. And I don't think he's done any of that, or we haven't heard about it. He sort of came in, appears to have been a sort of like an advisory role to the manager, helped with the recruitment, and then it's been nowhere to be seen for months. So I think just like some of these decisions just seem to have made no sense. The rumours are that McDermott's going to be taking a role in recruitment rather than a director of football role going forward. We're about to appoint a sporting director. It needs somebody to get a hold of the whole club and just say, right, what are we actually doing here, and make a plan and stick to it.
Matty, would you like to see people in the boardroom held accountable
Absolutely.
for the last 10 years?
Yeah, absolutely.
And if so, how?
So I think that there needs to be like an honest and transparent appraisal of the job that they've done. Now, it's easy to sort of, when the football side of things is bad, it's easy to just say everything's bad, and everything hasn't been bad. The last set of accounts that came out at Hibs were bad. Like, we'd taken on a lot of debt, which has since been converted to shares by the Gordon family. So you need to go and say what has actually gone well. What have we progressed on? We recently we did like a 5-year review on the Longbangers podcast to say, like, have we progressed in 5 years? And the truth is we haven't. The club's no any better than we were. We've got some improvements at the stadium. We're bringing in a bit more money, but where it really counts, we're exactly where we were, or worse.
Tom, in the brilliant but now totally defunct Scottish Football Daily podcast from 5 hours ago, I had Kevin Thomson, Hibs hero, of course, and Ryan Stevenson. Now, Ryan suggested, far be it from a former Hearts man to tell Hibs what they should be doing, but we were speaking in the context of Rangers, and Ryan said, sometimes clubs, they underestimate how important it is to have a group of players and staff who knows what it takes to be successful at a club, that know the demands that's placed on them, that knows what supporters want. Do you think Hibs needs an injection of those in the boardroom, but also those in the dugout and maybe even on the pitch, that knows what it is to play and to work at Hibs?
Not necessarily, no. I think that's the kind of reflex reaction when things are going badly. Oh, we need some of our old boys in here. Guys who know the club. That doesn't work nearly as often as people think it works, It's just a kind of default setting, a comfort blanket. They need to go and do a serious job of due diligence and get a manager that can... This is a fantastic football club, right? This is a big football club with an excellent infrastructure and supporters who are crying out to get behind their team, right? It should not be beyond the wit of a competent board to get a manager. Aberdeen have made it terribly difficult as well. That these two clubs are trading blow for blow here on tying themselves up in knots, But the time has to come now. Listen, if it's a former Hibs player, fine. If it isn't, fine. They just need to get the right guy. And the problem here is the same people who appointed the last 3 or 4 guys look like they're going to be appointing the next guy. That's an issue for me. I don't know, Matty, what you think of that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on all points that you make there. And Hibs have Hibs people in just now. So we've got David Gray's going to look after the club for the next 2 games. Darren McGregor's on the coaching staff. We've got still Paul Hanlon and Lewis Stevenson who haven't quite departed the club yet. So I think we do have people that know what the club's all about. Joe Neal's been there for years. Martin Boyle. I think it's like an easy thing to say, but to the point you make there, Tom, about trusting the people to make the appointment, I think there's nothing to base that trust on. I think Hibs need to almost outsource that decision and go to somebody who knows what they're doing and seek their help with it.
If you look at David Gray, right, obviously an Easter Road immortal. He had an interim spell in 2021, an interim spell in 2022, an interim spell in 2023, and now he's got another interim spell in 2024. In microcosm, that's your problem. Is there, he must be on the verge of breaking world records for having the number of interim spells at the same club.
I think it was the guy at Rangers that was on call for a wee while that's trumping him. Murray, yeah.
Great Murray.
He's catching up now, is he? I don't know, he might just end up getting the gig in his own right. Who knows?
Who would you like to see, Matty? Is there anybody out there, either with an affiliation to Hibs, a history with Hibs, or somebody completely different? Who would you like to see as the new manager?
So the popular choice among the Hibs support at the moment seems to be Derek McInnes because of the job he's done at Kilmarnock, the job he did at Aberdeen over a number of years.
Would he leave Rugby Park to walk into a club that's being run the way you say it is?
I don't think so. The only thing I would say is that we should be, in theory, on the cusp of very exciting times at Easter Road. We've got this investment from the Black Knight. Not a huge amount on its own, but I think this is an investment that's going to carry on over a number of years. It's a starting point of a project rather than the midpoint. So there might be that appeal to it, but I can't see, personally, like Derek McInnes would give up what he's achieved at Kilmarnock, a 4th place finished European football, to come and try and rebuild something at Easter Road. Considering he knocked back the Rangers job when he was at Aberdeen, I don't think that's his sort of character. So I don't know who I would like. I champion Montgomery. So what I know.
It's your fault, Matty. It's your fault.
It's my fault. I take full blame.
Tom, who should Hibs be looking for now?
I think McInnes is a bit pie in the sky. Although, obviously I understand why everybody at Hibs, or not everybody, the group of people at Hibs might want him. And Matty's right, with the Bill Foley investment, it's interesting times off the pitch at Hibs. I don't think McInnes would get the level of control at Hibs that he would want. So I think you can rule him out. And like, it's, you know, Stephen Robinson. He's a proven manager. He gets every ounce out of his players. He recruits pretty well. Kind of an inspirational character, effervescent, hyper, in a good way. He's had a very, very good season. And I think someone like him who's very, very canny, very shrewd, that's kind of the character. If I was Hibs, I'd be looking at him very, very closely, actually.
I think Hibs needs to work back from what we want to be as a club and find somebody that fits that profile. I think we've lurched from different type of profile of manager to different type of profile of manager for the last 4 or 5 appointments, and that's why it's not worked. So we need to figure out who we want to be, what sort of team we want to be, and then find a manager that will deliver that.
Would it not just be cheaper giving it to Davy Gray?
Yeah.
I mean,
no,
he's there all the time, as Tom says.
He's on 4 interims now. I'd say he's looking at 6 or 7. That's what he's... Listen, yeah, David Gray, what a great servant. And he's come, you know, he's there again for them. He's always there. He was there in the cup final on that famous day. And my God, Matty, how long ago does that feel?
How many managers ago was that? Let alone how long ago does it feel?
I've got enough fingers. Yeah.
Listen, guys, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much indeed for jumping on the emergency podcast. Was it Ferris Bueller that says life moves pretty fast, and he wasn't even a Hibs fan? Matty Fairnie, thank you very much indeed for joining us, fan and podcaster, our very own chief sports writer. Tom English, thank you as well. All the latest on Hibs and, of course, everything else in Scottish football, go to the website just now. You can also get up to date ahead of tonight's action at Ibrox and, of course, the big Premiership playoff semi-final between Partick Thistle and Raith Rovers. For now, though, the Scottish Football Podcast will be back tomorrow. David Witherspoon, he might have something to say on all things Hibs. The former Easter Road legend, of course, will be joining us. There's never a quiet day in this wild old game of Scottish football, is there? For now, though, bye-bye.
For everything you need to know about your team this season, download the BBC Sport app. All the latest news, goal updates, stats and scores, and insight and analysis. Just select your club to get the biggest stories and best content at your fingertips. What a result. Download the BBC Sport app for everything you need to know about your team this season.